Listen to this episode if you want answers to some of my community members' most burning questions in business. Today, we talk about branding. We're going to talk about marketing. We're going to talk about wholesale. We're going to talk about expansion. We're going to talk about scaling. In today's episode, this is actually a snippet from a live training that I did in my completely free podcast community. Every month, I sit down with people just like you that love listening to my podcast and provide some support and live coaching for them inside of my Small Business Café. This is available to you. You can click the link in the show notes to join at any time. Would love to have you inside. We have one of these calls at the end of every single month to wrap up the month and get us ready for that next month. Today's training, we are diving into questions like, how do I shape up my branding? How do I really get some messaging across? How do I scale a handmade business? What does it really take to be an artist and have a full-time income? We will dive into some of our most burning questions from our community members. If you want to be a part of the next call, make sure that you click the link in the show notes to join. Without further ado, let's dive in to today's episode.
The other day, you on one of your podcasts were talking about profit, and you mentioned, paying for yourself and paying for all of your materials and all of your resources and all the things. But how do you determine what to pay yourself?
Profit starts with your profit margins. So profit overall starts with a lot of your profit margins. So first things first is you should be attributing your own labor into the actual cost of your products, especially if you're hand making them. So if you're hand making your products and your pricing for your product should account for the amount of time that it takes for you to make it. What would you pay somebody else to do it? And at the very minimum, you should be paying yourself that. So if you were, because what that's doing is it's allowing space as you scale to then hire somebody and it not changing your overall profit margin. So you should be putting that in there. So if you would pay somebody $25 an hour, you should be paying yourself at least within your profit margin per product, that $25 an hour as well. Now, profit as a whole, if you're looking at your business, there are, of course, those equations out there of like what a reasonable salary is. You should be paying yourself. There's a lot of different models. The profit first model is out there. Some bookkeepers really hate it because it's a little bit of an accounting nightmare, but it is something that you should be at least accounting for within. Now, there will be some business owners and some business mentors that would tell you like you shouldn't pay yourself those first few years, like get to a certain point and then you can, reinvest everything back into the business until you can pay yourself. It really does depend on a lot of different factors in your life. One can be, who are you supporting? Are there other people there to support you monetarily while you build? And what does that really look like? Because there is an element of you do need to pour back into the business at first. Like there is going to be a point that is necessary, but there are like frameworks and equations out there of like a reasonable salary is what they call it. So like if you were to change an LLC into an S Corp, then they do a calculation to tell you what a reasonable salary is based on the overall income versus the overall like profit of your business. I just have a certain amount of money that goes into my personal bank account every 2 weeks. Based on my, I know kind of what my minimum is every single month, and I pay myself every 2 weeks from that. And I just have an automatic transfer from my business account to my personal account every 2 weeks. Now, some people do it every week, whatever that looks like for you. It's just easiest for me to know that, okay, every 2 weeks, X amount of dollars is going into my personal bank account. To really answer the question is that we would have to look at your numbers to get you an actual answer there. There are like percentages of your overall profit of what makes sense, but I would just look up kind of what, if you were to do an S Corp, what is a reasonable salary? And if you are at a point of, okay, looking at my profit, this is how much money I have without paying myself. Now let's look at what a reasonable profit is based on that. And I would use the equation for the S Corp to see what that is. And of course, it depends on a lot of other factors within your life. Do you have a partner that's helping you? Do you have kids that you need to support? Do you have other things that you need to support? Like there are different factors there as well. But we have to account for it in the actual pricing of your product. That is a really big one. And B, we have to look at the benchmarks of all of your expenses, your profits, and kind of go from there.
So I have always paid, I've always incorporated my cost of the materials into the product pricing, but I've never paid myself a salary. That's not to say I haven't taken money. Yeah. Because we've certainly used money. Like we took $9,000 for a trailer, which was stolen 2 weeks ago, by the way.
Oh no.
We got it back, but we lost about $5,000 from inventory. But we did get the trailer back. So
Dang.
I know, but we took $9,000 and bought a trailer, which was
But
cool.
that's for the
And
business, yeah?
it is for the business,
But
yeah.
that's so
But we
that's
have
not your income. That's going back, that's
true.
reinvesting back into the business.
Good point. That's
Yes.
true. Yes, but we have used money. You're right. We have
Yes.
used money for down payments on different things and buying different things. And my daughter's in vet school, so on occasion we send money and all that. So we take money out, but it's just not a specific amount.
Yes. When it comes to startups, a good benchmark of a startup, like paying yourself is taking X amount of dollars into your personal bank account. And then you can use that for groceries, you can use that to buy yourself a handbag, you can use that to buy yourself whatever you want. That is actually paying yourself. You can do whatever you want with it. It has nothing to do with your business, it's completely separate. I would say as a startup, a good benchmark, like, you're just starting to become profitable is like 10 to 25% of your overall profits can go back to yourself. As you start to build, some of these bigger brands that are in multi six figures are starting to do like a 30 to maybe 40% of the quarterly profit goes to the founder. But that is such a wide variety, but I would say at a lot of the stages of the business that most of you are at, I would say at least giving yourself 10% is going to be helpful. And if you've ever read the Profit First book, basically what they say is they have you like, this is your business bank account, and now let's make folders within this business bank account, and 25% should immediately go to taxes. 10% immediately goes to the owner's income, whatever. 20% goes to your expense, or I guess they have you take out the profit first, obviously, and then they have you put it into all of those other buckets. But basically what they're doing is they're just giving you good benchmarks to then organize it into a bunch of different areas. Again, it's kind of an accounting nightmare, but it is something that is absolutely helpful just to help you kind of dip your toe into what it looks like to kind of organize your money in those different areas. But definitely understanding that difference between like, this is money that I can use in any way for myself, for my groceries, for my house, for my mortgage, whatever. And this is money that is actually reinvesting back into my business, because that trailer has an ROI for you. That if that has an ROI, that is an investment into the business. And so like buying a trailer, spending thousands of dollars on that, like, again, if you're paying for your kid's school, that's great. That is a salary that you're technically paying yourself because that is you. But when it comes to really understanding profit, I think the most important thing that you have to do in your business is have at least quarterly check-ins with your what's going in, what's going out. If you have a bookkeeper, they should do that for you, is like sending, hey, this is what's going on, just so you can see how much you're actually profiting and how much you're actually losing. Quarterly taxes is a really easy way to do that, making sure you're paying your quarterly taxes. And then being able to justify, okay, after a couple of quarters, these last couple of quarters, we profited X amount of dollars without me actually paying myself a salary. Is this something that, what percentage of that profit can I start taking to myself? And I honestly would start making it an automated process, just so it's something that you put in there. It's a lot easier to stay motivated when you have money actually coming out of it, or at least like some benefit of some kind. Even if you take yourself out for like the fanciest dinner ever every 3 months and like put that on the business, like that can be just giving yourself something allows for you to see that, okay, this is like becoming fruitful. It's something for me, and it keeps you motivated in that sense, because not everybody is motivated by money, but it absolutely helps. And it is something that, you can feel that sense of freedom that money can give you, and that growth in your business can give you in that area as well.
Thank you so much, Madison. What was the name of that book? Was it
It's Profit First.
Profit First?
Yep.
Okay,
And
I'm going to look that up.
honestly, it's a wonderful book, but you also can see the summary of like what the like really layout is on YouTube in like 6 minutes if you don't want to read.
Okay, I'm all about summaries. Yes, that's it, girl.
Yes,
Thank
the
you so
Profit
much.
First, there's been plenty of people that have summarized it out there of like what it looks like and how to implement it. Yeah, awesome. All right. Great question, Brandy. Next one is Chanel. You talked about establishing a brand and going beyond colors and fonts, and I'm wondering where to even begin. Yeah, great question. Hi, Chanel. Thinking of your brand as if you were creating a world or like a party or a city or anything like that. Like you are establishing something that is completely your brand. And I think sometimes it's a little bit easier to see it as like a party. If you were to throw a party for your brand, what would be there? What kind of music is playing? What food would be out there? Who would be in attendance? What's the decorations look like? What is the space that you're going to? If you're like, I have no idea. I'm gonna like bring some pink and blue balloons and like call it good. That probably means that we need to develop that a little bit more. Like for me, if I were to throw a party for my brand, I know it would be in like the coziest luxury little like mountain retreat cabin house. And it would be have modern finishes, but it would have beautiful views, pine trees everywhere. We would have on some like Zach Bryan style, camp style music, have that going in the background. And we would have like probably a coffee bar with a lot of pastries. Like it would be in the morning, we would be drinking, we would be having brunch, and like that exudes what my brand is. It would be comfortable. We would be probably asking some questions. That has nothing to do with any amount of colors or things like that. Yeah, it would probably be neutral, but like that doesn't have anything to do with my brand. Your brand is how people feel when they come in contact with it, and what are the adjectives that they can use, and what are the accessories that they feel like can almost attract it. So, for me, I think about like I'm planning a photo shoot on Wednesday for my brand. It's going to take basically all of my videos and my photos, things like that. And I'm not thinking about what colors am I going to have it in. I'm thinking about the vibe. I'm thinking about the aesthetic. How are people really going to feel when they come in contact with this? So I always say my brand is like cozy chic is what I want to call it. It's kind of like the verbiage that I have. I want it to be cozy. So I'm going to be wearing knits. I'm going to be wearing, some trousers, but are comfortable. Like I'm wearing some pajamas. Like I'm going to have these certain different pieces to it that I'm really building this overall feeling around my brand that yes, I can be in this like, mid-century modern cozy house. However, I'm also going to be wearing, X, Y, and Z clothes that makes that kind of feel that way. That is what having a brand beyond colors and fonts really is. It basically is just building this like vibe around your product. So if we go and we look at a lot of different brands, if we look at the difference between like a Say Beauty, looking at their brand, what are they doing to really build the feeling of this brand? So it's very clean, it's very kind of editorial, it's elevated, but it kind of looks like the brand is made for almost like the business founder or like the ambitious person. You can see they have magazines. You can see that they have like notebooks and they have, they're almost like at their desk making these things. They have some like higher quality other pieces that they're setting it out with. It looks very editorial, very elevated, kind of like ambitious, things like that. Now, if we look at like Benefit Cosmetics, they have a very different brand. Their brand is very colorful. It's kind of like in your face. It feels very like a lot less of that like clean girl kind of like it's very colorful. It's very wow. It's very kind of like sassy. And they're selling the same products, similar products. They might be upset if I say the same products, but they're selling pretty much, they're doing the same thing for you. But the vibe that you feel, this is a lot less editorial and it's a lot more playful. It's a lot more fun. There's a lot more, there's like, this is attracting a different person. Think if you walk into Ulta. I was in Ulta yesterday. The Benefit Cosmetics like section is bright pink. It's in your face. There's like all of these, it's kind of like those like 80s comics, like in your face all over the place. And then you go over to the Say Beauty area and it's black. It has like mirrors, like LED mirrors, so you can like really see every pore in your face. And it makes you feel very clean. Like it makes you feel it's a little bit more modern. It's a little less on that playful side. And people are going to be drawn to different pieces based on that feeling that you have. For me, I am much more of a Say Beauty like consumer than I am a Benefit consumer. Just who I am. I like clean. I like natural products. I like that kind of more elevated feel. And none of that has anything to do with colors. I mean, yes, the colors play into the playfulness, play into that, like, in your face kind of bold that Benefit has. But it's not that I'm like, when I say their brand, oh, their brand is like pink and orange. Like that has nothing to do with what it actually feels. So, Chanel, to answer kind of your question, where to even begin with this is I want you to think about how do you want people to feel when they come in contact with your brand? Is it from a scientific lens? Is it from a playful lens? Is it from like more of an educational lens, which I know you are? And then what are some visuals that kind of go along with it? I think the easiest way to do this is to create a mood board of like what you would really love your brand to feel like when people come in contact with your brand. Nothing to do with your actual products of dog treats or anything like that. It is truly just these are the vibes, and I really like love this feeling when you're coming up with a brand. So I have some people that come to me when we're creating a brand and they say, I want my brand to feel like an 80s disco party. You're like, awesome, love that. Now, how do we create that? You're going to have disco balls, roller skates, neon lights, like all of these things. That is how we create a brand outside of it. And that is really how you first build the visuals, and then it's like, great, what is the tone of your brand? Is it sassy? Is it playful? Is it fun? Is it serious? Is it goofy? And we can kind of blend those two pieces, and then we create the visuals that match it, and we create the messaging and the verbiage that matches it from there as well.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, Chanel. Next question, Jessica, hello. I am currently working on building my website on Shopify. I do really well at craft shows and want to set up myself for success online. What's your advice for the most important thing to start with to make a website successful on Shopify? I'm really glad you're using Shopify. Shopify absolutely is, it's just like the most scalable option out there. I love Shopify. Hey, I'm jumping in here for 30 quick seconds for those of you who are loving the podcast but wish we could dive deeper into every episode topic together. I have actually started a completely free podcast community called the Small Business Café for exactly this purpose. Inside this community, we dive deeper into every podcast episode, provide bonus resources, and actually host completely free monthly coaching calls with me. So you can get your questions answered. Plus, you get to submit your questions for our Friday coaching session episodes and connect with other founders too. If you have been loving being a part of this podcast and want to connect with other brand founders, plus get extra support from me, click the link in the show notes below to join. When it comes to making a successful website, I mean, the first things first is that you have to have the foundation of your brand. So what I see a lot of people when they do really well at craft shows is a lot of times you don't have to actually develop the brand, your ideal customer, and anything at the core, because you're just showing up and people are ready to buy and they can buy from you. But what we have to do when you're making your own website, you're making your own socials, and you're making your own community, you're trying to send people to you, the most important part there is to understand who you're selling to, creating that messaging, and actually creating the urgency. Because the difference from a craft show to somebody buying online is people aren't online to shop all the time. And yes, if they find you through SEO or they find you through Google or like, whatever, they are looking for your product. But the majority of your people that are going to come to your website are probably not like actually a hot lead ready to buy right now. And so what we have to do, and the purpose of your website is to get them either to communicate the message. So again, when they have the need for your product, they want to buy from you, or we actually have to make it like actualize the need for your product. So something that we really have to do on your website is balancing the tangible versus the emotional. And a lot of the branding and like your messaging and things like that are very heavily emotional, which a lot of people tend to miss out on when they're at crafts shows, because you don't have to build the emotion or the messaging or the marketing, because people are just there. People are just shopping. They see your whatever your product is and they love it. And so they don't really have to dive too deep at a craft show of like really seeing, trying to develop any of the marketing skills that it takes to actually sell things through your own website. So selling things through your own website is you have to have a story behind your brand. You have to have that message behind your brand. You have to, and of course, have like this emotional side, but you also have to balance it with like ease of use. So what I see is a lot of people are like, all right, let me just plaster all of my products on a website. Sounds great. And like if people want it, they'll buy it. But that's a craft show mentality, is because if people want it, they'll buy it at a craft show. That's not going to happen on your website. Your website, it's on you to make people want it, create the desire, create the ease of navigation in order for people to get there. When people are shopping on your website, they're like, let's see what they have to offer. Let's poke around, let's see. And then they might get busy and they're not going to come back to it right away. Or if you make enough of a statement, they can purchase when they're poking around as opposed to just overall poking around. So, Jessica, my answer to you would be looking at that balance between the science and the art of sales and marketing, and that both of those pieces have to be on your website. Let me know if you have any questions on that, Jessica. It's a great question. I'm excited for you. And also realizing that building a business online might feel like a longer game than going to a craft show and making, $500, $1,100, whatever, but it's going to always be more fruitful in the long run if we can have the right strategy there, because the scalability of making sales online versus at a craft show is much stronger, because eventually you should be able to make more sales online while you sit at that craft show and you're like, why am I even here? Heather, I am curious about joining a gallery as an artist since I started to feel like market events are no longer aligned. Yes, markets are having a tough year this year. I've seen a lot of people going to markets and it's like an activity for people to do, but they're not really buying. A lot of my clients that are very market focused are having a tough year. And this doesn't technically mean that going to a gallery is going to solve that, because if we look at the overall marketplace in general, the people going to galleries, people going to markets, things like that, probably pretty aligned. And the reason they're not buying is for other reasons. It's not because they're out of market. Meaning that if you go to a gallery, it's going to immediately plug that hole. Big negative around going to a gallery is now that gallery is taking 30 to 40%, which, Heather, I know your products already have a tight profit margin. And so it's going to be tough for you to go to a gallery, give them 30 to 40% and still be able to make enough money and have a profit from there. So just some things to think about to start to answer the actual question, is I think it's a great way to try to get in front of people that are willing to invest in art. It's a great way to get in front of people that are a little bit of a different actual price point maybe than a farmer's market. Like, I don't think a lot of people go to a farmer's market thinking that they're going to spend $100 plus on something. I think sometimes people, like, when I think about going to a farmer's market, I'm like, all right, I might buy some soaps, I might buy some bakery items, I might buy, maybe a towel, something like that, 25, $30. It's more of that impulse spend. Whereas when you get over $40 to $50, people start to be like, ooh, this is a little bit more of a big investment. Is that what people are at markets for? Whereas if you're at an art gallery, people might be thinking about things that are a little bit more expensive, which is a plus, is like what the expectation of the event is. Not to say that people won't spend $100 plus as a farmer's market. It's just not what everybody's expectation going into the event is. So I do think that it's a profitable model, but you know what? At the end of the day, building a business that you control is always going to be better. And that is just where I stand on markets. It's where I stand on galleries. It's where I stand in any of those kind of pieces. You don't control what goes on at that gallery. What you would be better off doing is building a community at the end of the day. Building a community and really connecting with them, spending that time. Because for you, Heather, she's a ceramicist. She makes mugs and different pieces. You have a product that takes you a really long time to make. Your problem is not, you can't get in front of people. It's that you can't make enough product to actually make the amount of money that you're trying to make in your business to take it full time. Going to an art gallery is not solving that problem. So just to be blunt, I love you. You're great. But that would be my response to that, is that I know, because we've had conversation before, that, you make whatever 15 items and you sell out. That doesn't tell me, oh, let's go to a gallery, because if you go to a gallery, then you're just losing 30 to 40% on every product, as opposed to just finding a way to be either more efficient, to make more products, to be able to launch more drops, or finding ways that we can make it a more scalable business model, direct to consumer, as opposed to trying to sell to other places. So that's love it. Cool. I want to change my branding, and this is something I have been working on for a while behind the scenes. Can you give me a mini coaching on your first thoughts on this and how you would implement this without hiring a designer to redo everything? It's a lot, if I were to look at this, my immediate reaction is feminine. It's a lot more kind of playful, a lot more dainty than what you have. There's a lot more color behind what you have. My immediate feeling is that your current logo is a lot more muted than a lot of the colors that you have in here. And so we might need to do something about that. Is like the true to color kind of feeling is a lot more vibrant in some of these images than what your actual logo kind of looks like. There's a little bit of disjointed energy here. We have a little bit of illustration as we have graphics and vector images, which are two very different styles of business, two different styles of branding, really. And so we have like illustrations that feel very like true to handwriting, and then we have some that are very graphic, very vector, which is like more of a graphic design style of things. And so this is, I guess, my question for you here would be, what is changing with this branding? Is it really just the visuals, or is it what you're going to stand for as a brand? Because Chelsea, I know your brand as well. And like right now, a lot of your branding is like doing better for the family and like things like that, like, living a healthier lifestyle. How is this visual going to communicate that to your audience? Is this going to be actually better at communicating those visuals? So anytime we're thinking about a rebrand, my question for you is, are you rebranding because you are unmotivated with your current brand and you're kind of just feeling sick of doing the same thing over and over again? Or are you rebranding because it's actually going to help you stand out? It's actually going to help you communicate your message in a better sense. And I find a lot of people rebrand when they're just bored in business. They rebrand because, you're doing the same thing in business. Business is boring. If we think about business, business is monotonous. It's the same thing over and over again. And we have to be okay with that at a certain point, because especially with branding, do you feel like this branding is going to propel you for like ahead enough to warrant starting over on your brand recognition? Because it takes a long time to build up brand recognition. It takes a lot of consistency to build that brand recognition. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm going to rebrand, and you're starting over. People can know your name, but now it's friction with your visuals. And so my question here really would be, do you feel like this rebrand is worth it for you to start over on your brand recognition? Do you feel like it's actually going to propel you forward, differentiate yourself, and separate yourself enough to warrant that start over of your brand recognition? If that answer is yes, love it. Go ahead and do it. But I think a lot of times, it's almost like starting a book. You're starting a book, and then it gets, you get some of the excitement at the beginning, and then it's like character building in the middle, and you're like, this kind of sucks. Like, why is this book really slow? I'm bored. Like, can we get to the juice? That's the point that everybody's at. And then they're like, all right, let me start a new book. And then it's like, all right, let me build to this point. It gets a little boring. Let me start a new book. And that's what it's like, what a lot of people kind of rebrand all over. Is they like, they build, and then they're like, all right, now it's like monotonous. Because the branding stuff, once branding can be really, really fun, because it's just vibes. It's like aesthetic. It's fun. It's like, how can we build this brand? And then it's like, all right, I've been doing this like vibes and aesthetic for a long time. And then you're like, all right, let me rebrand and start over. And then your audience is just feeling kind of like, woo, I just got used to that brand. Now I'm feeling this other way. So that would be my tidbit for you. I think it's playful, it's fun. It has a lot of those pieces to it, but just a couple of things to think about when it comes to rebranding. Brandy, I want to touch on something you said here. You said you're in a similar situation to what we were talking about with Heather. Where are you finding that scaling feels really hard? Sorry to put you in the spot.
Right here in my hands. I make my reins. So I make all of them. My husband's here at the horse show with me, and we make everything from cutting the leather to oiling and beveling and punching and lacing. And it takes us, I would say, about an hour to make a rein.
Yeah.
One. And here at the show, I've sold, I don't know, 40 something of them. I can't make fast enough.
Yeah.
So I have done some research to outsource some of that manufacturing, but I can't get the quality right. And I think that's a problem. I really wish there was my ideal would be that there was some magic website platform of all the manufacturers in the United States and what they did and how we could access them.
Yes.
But I think scaling is huge when it comes to making everything by hand, like Heather was saying, or even like the dog food, Chanel. It's just hard to scale when you're a one-woman business or one woman in a hubby.
Yeah. I posted about this today. My post went out talking about this. It's something that I've absolutely seen just because I do work with, 75% handmade businesses at least. And it's something that I see that everybody gets to a point that like handmade businesses, unless you want to build out a team of people to help you make product, a production staff that is just making your product, it's really hard to scale, and it's really hard for you as the business founder to actually be able to have enough time in your day to actually grow the business. So then it gets to a point, there's like this major sales plateau in every handmade business's journey, is because you can't, like, if I were to triple your sales tomorrow, can you withstand that with your current production? And if that answer is no, you have a business model that is broken, because we actually can't scale your business at all. So a lot of times I have people come to me and they're making, they've had their sales plateau, 3,000, 5,000, 8,000, 10,000, whatever it is a month. And they're at this plateau and they're like, Maddie, I need to make more sales. My sales have plateaued. I'm like, great. If we double this with your marketing and your sales process, which we can do easily with a couple of tweaks here, are you actually able to make that happen in your production? Can you handle double? And a lot of times the answer is no in handmade businesses, which means you are the bottleneck of your business. You are the bottleneck of the scaling of your business. And a lot of times, even like subconsciously, we are not allowing our business to grow. We're not taking the proper action that we know we can take to get to that next step to reach our goals, because we know we would be overwhelmed with the production and we can't take that. So I actually find a lot of handmade businesses tend to be the bottleneck of their business, is that they feel like they need to maintain handmade. They maintain this, which you can either, there's a couple of different options here. And I hear you when you say getting things manufactured, just don't maintain the same level of quality. And so a couple of things that you can do here. First things first, you can build out your own production team. And that can be people locally to you. That can be, a nice little group of old women that just need to do something in their free time. It can be some interns in college, or it can just be people that want, and it can even be a part-time job. Just hiring somebody for 10 hours a week for production absolutely helps. And this is why we need to have labor within our overall pricing, because when we start to hire people out, it has to make sense. We can look at manufacturing and really try to identify where is something similar already manufactured and how can we kind of get in on their manufacturer, or we can work with a manufacturer to create something at the actual quality of what you created. Because a lot of times at first, a manufacturer is, what they're doing is they're just like, all right, let me make it. And this sounds great. A lot of times we go in and we're like, all right, this person makes reins. Let's just see the reins that they make, not understanding that we can customize a lot of that. We can actually go in and we can customize what they do. And some manufacturers are going to be a little bit more flexible than the rest. We have to find the perfect manufacturer. You're very right, Brandy, is that it does take time to find the manufacturer, especially when quality is like a differentiator that you have. But it just takes finding that one perfect fit, that person that is happy to be flexible with you, that person that is happy to do things a little differently than either what they're doing, or they might not be doing any of it and they're actually just willing to move into that process for you. But it will absolutely change the game. I have seen so many of my clients go from $3,000 a month to like, the 15, 20, 25, 30, $50,000 a month once we adjust from handmade to manufactured. Because think about how much extra time you now have in your week to work on your business if you didn't need to make products. If you didn't need to sit down and, hand do all of these different things, how much more time is on your plate now that you actually can just go and work on the business? You're growing, you're making wholesale like relationships. You're actually going out and making the content that you can. You can actually organize your business. You can actually work on the business for so much more time. And as a business owner, our biggest asset is our time. And if you as the business owner are spending time manufacturing every product or like producing every product, at a certain point, that doesn't actually take your brain. And your brain power is like one of the biggest assets your business has. And we need to like harness that where it actually makes sense to grow your business. And if you have to be in production, if you're an artist, you need somebody or something or some time frame to really work on the business and go from there. She said, I've hired a few 1099 people to make more reins and help with manufacturing, but maybe I need someone full time. Yeah. And that's something that we can talk about, Brandy, of what that really looks like, because sometimes it does make sense to hire, 3 part-time 1099 people, more than having one full-time. But then that one full-time person can also really understand your brand, really understand your business, can really have such an impact on what you're doing. And so that's something that kind of depends that we can absolutely look into. Thank you so much for joining us today. That is all. It is just a snippet of just some of the questions that people were able to get answered. If you are craving some coaching in your business, if you have some questions that you would love clarity on, are you listening to my podcast being like, Maddie, I just wish I could sit down, sip some coffee, and actually ask you real business questions? Now you can. We are just a couple of weeks away from our next live coaching call. You can click the link in the show notes and you can join us there. Inside of the Small Business Cafe, my free podcast community, you will get resources, bonus, different support inside. You will get access to these free calls, as well as you gain access to a community full of other business owners that are in a spot just like you, that are looking to grow, and they are just looking for some resources and support in how to do that. I hope you have a great day. I hope that this was helpful for you. I love you. I'm rooting for you. I'm in your corner always, and I will see you in the next episode. If you found today's episode helpful and are looking for more tangible ways to grow your business, make sure you are subscribed to the show. If you want to dive deeper into this topic more, click the link in the show notes and join our completely free podcast community, where we dive into every single podcast topic, as well as give some bonus support and free coaching calls. And finally, if you are interested in getting my eyes on your business to find your hidden opportunities to scale, apply to work with me one-on-one in the show notes or on our website. Remember, it's not enough to listen. Don't forget to implement too. I love ya. I'll see you in the next episode.